Welcome to the Image Critique Show with Jeff Johnson, Rick Avalos, and their special guest. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hello, Evergreen. Jeff here. Rick and I really want to thank you for allowing us to look at your images and giving you some of our feedback, some of our experience and critiques on your work. Lots of beautiful images. Thank you for submitting. Hopefully everything we said was on a positive note for you and you could get some good points out of it for your future photography. We also encourage you to connect with us and let us critique or work on your portfolio. If you would like us to talk with you, we can certainly do that at the Image Critique Show. So sit back, enjoy the show.
As I mentioned earlier too about pulling back just a little bit, and another point is down here at the bottom. If you'll notice that the tail of the bird is almost, well, it actually is touching the border or the bottom part of the image, and creating a tangent point. So I would suggest, if there's room on the file, to allow that space to be down there. One last thing, Joe Campanelli is a really good friend of Jeff and mine, and aviary photography is, he's just like the best. And I remember him telling me that a starting point for your shutter speed in this type of photography should be about 1,000th of a second. And I mentioned that, that we got really tack sharp, but I am seeing a little bit of softness and motion blur, especially on the wing camera right. But compositionally, I think we have a real nice curve between the birds. The exposure I felt was handled well. Just those thoughts, and hopefully those are something that can be considered.
I'm not sure what happened, but the tail was there even when you first pulled this up, I think. So
I'm not sure. I think, yeah, and I think you're right about that. I can, the image is enlarged quite a bit, so I'm afraid to click on anything. It's just gonna go away. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so yeah, what I was going to add to that, and I think this is very tough to do when you've got birds with fast moving wings and tails. Yeah, 1,000 or faster shutter speed. You get bright sunlight in this. I would go up to 2,000 and try and capture that. Then you add hummingbirds to it, and I don't know how fast those wings go, but it's how many thousands of beats per second or some crazy number like that. So you're going to get that. But I think what Rick is saying, what's really most important is the fact that we do have some very nice sharpness through the face. Even it's the neck of this guy, but there's great interaction between the two birds. The tail a little bit, it's a little soft. I don't mind it too much. And even the wingtips a little soft. And again, I kind of feel that that's also part of the movement of the birds, and then you've captured the faces and this nice line, this nice curve that Rick was talking about, gives it such nice movement and such. I also like that you kind of filled up the frame with the image. It just gives it anytime you get a larger image within the frame, you get this impact, you get this almost in your face kind of a feeling. And with these guys being so small and flighty and such, this is really a pretty powerful image, I think, overall. Good exposure, color balance is nice. I mean, you're going to have a little darker sky in the top, a little lighter down here in the horizon, so I don't mind that at all. But it's not a blown out white. That's a good thing. So nice job there on that one. All right, let's see if I can see how this toolbar keeps coming and going. I don't know why that does, but it's a little frustrating. I'll clear that in a sec. So our next image is baby moose. Let me clear off the. Okay. All right, baby moose. Again, what a really special capture this is, to see a baby moose in captivity and not captivity, in the wild, and be able to capture is the word I was looking for. This interaction, really, the little guy's looking at you, and you've got this, very, very, very interested animal looking at you. A lot of times we would look at composition and think, oh gosh, these weeds in the foreground are a little distracting. But having been out there and doing this stuff, That's how it is. That's how, and the conversation goes, if you're looking for something that's going to hang on the wall, hanging in for sale, that's fine. It's just part of the scene. If you get one of the things that happens in competition, though, is I can almost promise you, judges are going to say that this is distracting and takes away from the moose itself. And it's, again, a personal choice at that point. It is part of the environment. It does create this foreground of the weeds, middle ground of the animal, and then the background. So you do have some depth throughout there. I think I might, if it was my image, I might go in and remove maybe these guys here and maybe this one on the back end here and let the rest of them stay. And then maybe do something with this blown out, my yellow isn't even showing on the very bottom of the scene, something that's, I wouldn't crop up anymore, but I might get rid of these blown out highlights, maybe even this. I should choose another color here. Um, these blown out highlights on these weeds here, because when there's a white area in a scene, it draws your eye to that first. So we have the sun on the back, which isn't bad because we're still in that face area. So that's okay if our eyes are pulled there. But these bright blown out weeds tend to pull our eye away from the subject matter. Rick, you want to add to that?
Yes, I think you hit it on all cylinders, but I would agree with the one on the rump, and then those in front on his right there, and I really enjoy that shallow depth of field with the foreground here, but I definitely would do something about the blown out highlights in the on the bottom of the image. The backlighting, I think, is handled really, really well. We're a little hot on the back here, but just a really nice natural capture that, man, any naturalist or outdoorsman, what have you, I think would really enjoy having something like this hanging in their den or, anywhere in their home.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is a great story. And like I mentioned when I first started talking about it, is how you've got this captive audience, this guy, you're eye to eye with that. That just makes this so much more powerful. Nice work. Rick, what do you think? Let me ask you a question about wildlife and filling up the frame or making them smaller. Any preference there you think sells the better?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on the nature of the image. By that I mean, are we having let's say, a single image as opposed to a mother child image of an animal, and then the environment itself. Do we want, for instance, maybe we see a polar bear on a on a snowbank with a cub, and then allowing a lot of space around that image to show the environment, to tell the story, because storytelling is also another element that we concern ourselves with. And then when we have an image like this, it kind of is filling the frame. Again, that adds to the impact. If we back off, if there's a secondary element that supports that reason to back off and make the main subject smaller, then yeah, I'm all for it. But ultimately, it comes up to the photographer's vision of that image and the capture that they want to present to the viewer.
Absolutely. Well said. All right, let's see. Let me knock this one out. And let's go to, I don't have a title on this one, but we have, oops, let me get rid of this. Windows keep opening. I don't know what happens here. What a great panorama. Just a beautiful story, and to capture the calmness. Let me get back to my pen tool again here. The calm over here in this part of the scene, and then you've got this evening, or looks like a late day thunderstorm coming in with the intensity, the intensity of the clouds. It's just such a great story throughout there. I like the pano feel. This is what, about a 4-to-1 ratio roughly. That's always a nice, great landscape. feeling, because it gives you, it lets you zero in on the theme, it lets you zero in on the horizon and the storm, and not have, if you had a lot of extra landscape top and bottom, it's almost unnecessary for the scene. This allows you to go right in and look at that horizon. We see the houses and then how close the storm is if it's coming in to that. It just really tells a great story. One thing that's a little tough is, again, this is something that we talk about in the competitions, is that your highlights, when they get blown out like this, that will be a knock against you. So you do have to kind of really pay attention to those highlights if you're going to enter it in a competition or for a jury show or something like that. So, Rick?
Yes. Um, something that kind of caught my attention is the horizon line, pretty much in the center of the whole capture. And I'm not saying that's bad necessarily, but generally we like to think in odd numbers, maybe thirds, where the horizon might be up a little higher. Also, we've got the houses down at the bottom. Is it telling the story? Is it something that we want to include? Maybe the fact that these residents have want to escape the city and live in the natural, or something along that line. Also, as you mentioned, the highlights that are blown out, but I'm just wondering if just a really 4-to-1 that this might be, maybe even make it more of a panel where we've cropped above the houses, and that naturally would bring the horizon line down to about the thirds, because we've got a lot of drama in the sky with the highlights and the clouds to the upper camera right. Just a thought. And then
So you're suggesting cutting a little sky out of it, like maybe.
actually, I'm a little bit, but I'm really thinking about coming up more from the bottom.
So are you talking about eliminating the houses?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I think that changes the whole story. I mean, again, there's not a title here, but go back to.
What are your thoughts about the lighting, Jeff?
Well, it's tough because you get this great storm, and you want to capture that, but it does look like we still have a pretty high sun, which again gives us those cloud issues and gives us also the uh, pretty just brightly lit back landscape. So there's not really a some nice great depth or feeling there in the whole scene. And again, that's kind of why we play with Photoshop. Let me go in here and let's do even taking the density down a little bit, so we got a little bit of darkness. And then I would even go in here, let's just look for a little different color balance shift. And I'm just trying to pull in the highlights a little bit more and look for a little bit more of a warm tone, which is going to you notice how it's kind of beefing up the guts of the foliage, and then also adding a little bit of yellow to it. Now look at the intensity of the storm. I did that with the levels layer, and then I just don't have my levels lever my palette open. So we just kind of given a little bit more intensity to the storm, and also a little bit more color to the background. We get the end of the day in the landscape, as you know, and especially in Colorado at this high altitude, we get an awful lot of UV light, and that's what we get on the landscape quite a bit. So quite often, I would go in there and try and eliminate, some of those blue cyan tones. They're very negative towards a lot of people's taste, psyche. Cyan is, if you ever read about color, cyan can be an offensive color to a lot of people, me being one of them. But just, kind of even to balance that out so much, it's not so bad what I did there, but it just also look at the drama that it picks up in the storm. And again, the houses, matter of choice. I'm kind of looking at leaving the houses there just because, oh, I already hit that. Let me go backwards here. Just because the storms kind of looks like it's coming that way, and here's the houses, are they in danger? You know, so it's just more part of that storytelling sort of thing. So, you know, it's all in how you want to perceive, not just perceive, but how you want to tell a story is where I'm going with that. So,
Right.
all right. So then we have this one is called Waiting. So Rick, if you want to talk.
Yes. What a moody image. Obviously with the, the low light. And it certainly to me tells a story. Now, in terms of just little things that grab your attention and that can really be easily taken care of are things like this uh, whatever it is in the bottom left camera.
Looks like a telephone pole, actually.
Yeah, it does look like a telephone pole. And then just the little specks. And the way I look at it with these things like this, these elements, my question to myself is, are they adding to the image,
Right.
or are they taking away from the image? And if they're like, okay, I'm seeing this beautiful scene here, and then to see a telephone pole or whatever it might be, it just isn't like congruent with the image, and so easy to take out, as is that little speck there, that just draws our attention. Also, I'm thinking that maybe we can just ramp up the contrast just a little bit more, because I understand we've got this real soft, um, uh, muted light, but I think a little bit of contrast would help the image as well. The sky, I think, was rendered quite well.
Yeah, that's kind of a fine line there, I think, Rick, is that, you know, we've got this very, very low light end of the day, kind of stormy sky. So everything is going to be low contrast. And so it is, you know, I think naturally captured. But if we could boost the contrast just that little bit,
Just a little bit.
yeah, that would just give it. And again, what it's going to do is give it just a little bit more punch. And let me do this. Let me pull up. Two. Yeah, and so I don't know where my properties box, that's disappeared now too. That's not what I want. Anyway, so yeah. So, but I think that, boy, the color harmony, what a great story here, what a great feeling, and this very moody kind of end of the day. You got the warmth of the sky, but you've got the kind of the gloomy feel of the low light. That's just really neat. Yeah, the one thing I think is very important, like Rick was talking about, anytime we have an image that is on the edge of a piece that's on the edge of your image like this, it pulls the eye down to it. So I always run through the end of getting an image prepared, whether it's for a competition or just in general. I'll run my eye along all the way around the image and look for things that are right on that edge, because they're very, what's the right word, Rick? Controversial, not good or bad. They're just that pull attention.
Right, right.
And little things like that. This rock sitting or it looks like a buoy actually, but just sitting all by itself, it makes the viewer go out there and look to see what it is. Is that bad? No, but it is something that does pull you away from the main subject. And again, because this telephone pole's right on the edge. But yeah, so if we could, you know, have maybe pulled up, brighten the whites just a little bit on the buildings and the lighthouse, it just would have had just that little bit more punch, even though it's very low light level. Very
Right.
much love the time of day. Good, you know, congratulations on seeing that happening. I like the format. It's one of my favorites, kind of the panel kind of feeling 3-4 to 1 ratio. So yeah, so I think it's neat. The other thing I'm kind of feeling is, again, low light level also can make it feel like it's underexposed. And I'm seeing kind of a cloudy grayish cast in here. And again, by going with a little bit stronger contrast, you'll get just a little bit richer blacks, dark grays, blacks, and the greens will show up just a little bit more. So I think it's a cool thing. It's almost there, but it could be just a little bit more.
Right. And a term that we hear a lot in our competitions is when we have this kind of lack of contrast, it has a milky look to it.
Yeah. All right. So then we have bobbing for berries. And this is a little bit of a smaller image, so I'm going to enlarge it and hopefully we don't run out of pixels here. In competitions, there's a certain size that we save the images to so that they can be viewed at a good physical size for the judges, but they're a little bit smaller of a JPEG, so they load quickly. So this one would be just a little bit small. The judges are not allowed in a competition to enlarge the image. It has to be looked at the 100% as it comes up, which was this. But that makes it awfully small. So in this case, actually 100% is right about there. So that would make it kind of hard. Again, not good or bad for what we're doing here, but we can talk about that later if you want. We'd certainly be glad to talk to you about that. So I'm going to enlarge it just to see it. And of course, what it's going to do is going to create just a little bit of a feeling of pixelization. So I'm not going to talk about that because I enlarged it. So now that we've got all the rules out of the way.
Right.
Yeah, so we have, I think, a really neat little story here to capture this robin just going after, and it's kind of got this question, bobbing for berries is a really good story here. And, I can see him bopping around the back porch looking for berries and how they always jump at it real quick to grab it like it's going to get away from him. But this pensive look right now is kind of like, should I eat this or not? Is this a good one? Is this one rotten? Should I go ahead or should I take this home to mom? I mean, these are the kind of little stories that can be built up in the viewer's mind. And I think that's the kind of stuff that definitely makes it more fun. The contrast level, well, it's got good contrast, but it seems a little soft in punch. And again, personal preference. I know a lot of times images we're seeing online these days, they have gone and taken and it's actually kind of a new phase that I'm seeing where they're actually going in and taking the blacks out, if you can believe that, Rick. They're actually going and reducing the blacks and giving it this milky kind of cast. So if that's what you were going for, you did it. So it's good job. But I can tell you from what most competitions will look at is looking for that good blacks and whites. In the chat box, gang, I put up the 12 elements of design. Again, if you're not at a computer, have the group pull it up there. But it's an element of 12 elements, 12 suggestions, things that judges will look for in creating an image for competition. I know I use it all the time when I'm creating an image, period, because they're good things. You guys, when we're done here, you can open it up and share it with everybody and just kind of see. But the first one on the list is impact. Rick, I'm going to jump to you. You always handle that one so well. Tell them about impact.
Yes. Every image has some degree of impact. There's no doubt about that. I see impact as from two different perspectives. There's lasting impact, that kind of an image where we enjoy this image and for whatever reason, it could be lighting, it could be storytelling, it could be composition or a combination of those or any or all of the other 12 elements that creates this impact. So such that you can't get it out of your head. Even an hour later, you're thinking about that. And those are kind of the images that I think of when I think of Arnold Newman's photographs or Karsh's portraits that have such impact. And then there's the other type of impact that I call fleeting, to where the impact is there, obviously, but for whatever reason, it doesn't really grab us to the point where, we're thinking about it later on. So, um, and that's why I call it fleeting impact. The colors are nice, the composition is nice. I like the rectangular or panoramic composition, but it's just nice. So those are the two types of impact, and I hope that that's kind of sending the message to. Now, in this image, I think that the aperture selection was handled really well because we have a real nice shallow depth of field that creates a three-dimensional look to the image. I would suggest maybe coming in and taking out this part of the background here because it almost looks like they're part of the bird and it doesn't look that natural. But just those two little strokes there, taking them out, I think would be beneficial. In terms of composition, we have what might be considered a bullseye composition because there's almost equidistance from the left to right and then from the top to the bottom. So, just placing the subject a little off center I think would benefit it. And occasionally we'll see images that are bullseye, I mean dead center, and they do quite well. I think it depends a lot on the subject matter, which again is one of the 12 elements, and how it's lit and presented in the image.
Okay, well said, sir. Let's move along here with clear this up. Next, we have Moon, Venus, and Mars over Florida. Wow, what a
This is
cool
cool.
composition. Let me just, sorry, there we go. Kind of cutting out the bottom a little bit. What a great, we talk about bringing in depth to a scene, and I love that you've left the hotel or whatever this is on the left here, just enough to give us some ground to go forward, and then we go out looking out over the water, and then there's our boy, excuse me, our moon, Venus, and Mars. And again, I like that it's not a straight line. I love the little bit of the can we say juxtaposition, and so we've got a lot of texture going on in the building. We've got a lot of lines going on in the surf. And then we've got all this nice, beautiful expanse so that the planets can really stand out from the rest of the scene. Nice color harmony there between the orange coral color of the building and the blues, purpley violet kind of thing of the sky, upper sky. So just nice capture, just a real simple piece, but it really definitely pulls us into the scene. It's got good impact, as we mentioned. And Rick, what do you think?
Oh man, I'm really taken by this image for several reasons. Number one, the color contrast or harmony that you were talking about, these really the warmth of the tower to the left against the blues in the sky, and then the repeated the warm colors, in the horizon. I would can you how do I erase that line? Can you do it on your side? The blue line?
Yeah.
That on the horizon. Okay, we're dipping just a little bit to the right. And I would say, if we can make this horizon line just a little more level, I think it would be more appealing. And then again, we talked about these little elements here that maybe just take that out. But to me, gosh, this is such a melding, if you would, between humanity and nature. Humanity that created this structure, and nature as we see it here. And then the human element of that silhouette of I'm going to say it's a gentleman down at the bottom left. Yeah, that's a good crop.
Just had a thought that I'd share since I can.
Nice. I really like this image.
All right, let's see. And again, when I do a crop or something like this, just a suggestion, just something to possibly think about. Okay, so, well, here we have it not cooperating again. Oh, for crying out loud, you guys. The toolbar disappears on me, and it's never done that before. And it's nowhere to be seen. Oh my goodness. No, I don't need Photoshop. I need.
Try your tab key.
I'm in Photoshop now, so let me get out of this one here. Let me open another one and I'll try it. Well, it's it's like anything else. I've never had that issue before. I don't want to hit stuff. See, now there, all of a sudden, there it is. Let's go back here. Okay. Wow, I'm so sorry, guys. This is just as embarrassing because I know what I'm doing. I really do. Let me just give us a little bit of an enlargement here so we see it have this nice punch in our faces. Wow, what a beautiful image this is.
Sure is.
I really, really enjoy shallow depth of field, and I think it's quite the challenge when you photograph a flower and you're trying to get the center, all the different names of flowers that I can't come up with right now, the piston and the stamen and all those pistil stamen and all those kind of things. That pulls your eye in, that becomes your focal point, becomes the story, becomes all the things that this flower is about, and going soft all around the rest of the flower, I think is just a beautiful piece of art. Sometimes when you go soft on the front edges here, it can be dangerous because what it does is usually creates a big blob and doesn't let the viewer into the scene. But this is so subtle, and the sharpness starts along in here, and then it's nice and crisp in the center, and then falls off again. Man, what a beautiful story. The color harmony throughout from the flower itself to the background. I like the light, open, airy feeling of the whole scene. The lighting you've chosen to photograph this in is very nice because we're getting areas that, upper here that could have been blown out. This area, a little bit, not too bad. I would probably tone that down, just a little bit. But I think by all means, you've got just a really, really beautiful piece right here. Rick?
Yeah, I agree. And the color harmony of the background to the colors of the flower and the petals. My only thought would be to work this image compositionally. Maybe twist it, free transfer it a little bit so that the stem isn't quite as horizontal, but maybe twisting a little bit so that it's at an angle, so we can lead into the image. But that's like my only thought. I think the color harmony of this is just beautiful.
So maybe going like this a little bit just to.
Yeah, yeah. Just to take it off that vertical axis.
Yeah, so probably cut into the flower a little too much.
Well, and hopefully there's more room on the file that that won't cramp it too much.
Cramp the style.
Cramp my style, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what Rick's referring to. There's a lot of times you get, and I don't know why I'm getting what I did to get AI. Only when I need it not to, right? When you do vertical and horizontal lines, they're very powerful, but they also can become very stagnant and don't create movement. Diagonals are very strong in the sense that they create movement. So just tipping the flower to give it a little bit more of, you've got a nice angle in the Um, wow, this is incredible, and nothing wants to work for me here. You get some nice movement diagonally through the flower, but then that almost vertical stem tends to just kind of slow it up a little bit. So we need to keep moving along or we'll never get done tonight here. So,
Yeah.
so let's see. Then we have this image is called Beseech. Beseech, did I say that correctly there? And I don't know if you can see the border there, but can you see there's the, and I'm just doing this to show, can you see the corner of
Yes.
the brick?
Yes, I can see it.
See it, okay. So follow the perspective. So go ahead, strong portrait man.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I like the lighting, the strong lighting. Um, you know, the posturing of the subject is handled really well. We've got a really nice, what we call an S curve going throughout the body, which is handled really, really well. Because the light is coming in from camera right, obviously the hand being closest to the light is going to take on quite a bit more luminosity. So, you know, we want to watch that in terms of either goboing the light or toning down in post, toning down the hand. Uh, but really a very, very classic look to the photograph. As I'm seeing it, I'm losing a little bit of detail back here between the dress and the background. And saying that, I think if we went with a little warmer background, we could maybe have something of the value that's in the garment somewhere. I don't know, maybe something around there, just to have a nice separation between the subject in the background, but just a really nice classic approach to this portrait. You know, we've got a real nice edge of the hand that's being shown on camera right, and we're looking right into the back of the hand on camera left, maybe turning the wrist just a little bit more away from the subject. I think just so we see a little more of the edge, but you know, as it stands, it's a very, very nice classic portrait of this lady. And I do enjoy the composition, as I mentioned, with the S curve, but I think, you know, the background being as dark as it is, if we had just a little something more um, to support the image itself. And that's why I was saying something of a, you know, in this hue, maybe in the background with a very, very slight um, texture, I think would help this out. Nicely done, though.
Yeah, I agree with the background thing. When you get a black background, I mean, we see that quite a bit in portraiture, and it's nothing wrong with it, but it does tend to stop the depth feeling. So if there was just a little bit of separation, this area of the dress, I see detail in it. So if it's just a little bit lighter, I think that would certainly help, even if you stayed with the black background. And the other thing I was going to say is that, you know, turning the hand, like Rick said, and I think either hand, palm up or palm down would be fine, but also bend the wrist a little bit. Just give it that little break. It makes it just a little bit more of a feminine feel. But otherwise, this is just an absolutely beautiful image. I think this would do pretty well in competition too, with those
Mhm.
little changes that we talked about. So good stuff. Then we have Flyby. Wow, I like this one. This is gorgeous. Look at the tonal range throughout. You know, we talk about contrast range, and then there's also the tonal range. And just very quickly, those of you who are familiar with, you know, the zone system, there's, you know, 11 stops in there, but in every single stop, every single zone, there's a range of contrast from left to right, dark to light. And that's what really makes a fine art black and white photograph. And if you look at the tone from, go back to my pen here, look at the tones just through from the bottom of the fuselage, just right up underneath the the mufflers, can't remember the word there. Just that tone right there is exactly what I'm talking about, how it's just dark here and it's just lighter there. Not even maybe one zone difference, but it creates the roundness of the fuselage. And even the front of the wing and the back of the wing are just a little bit lighter than the curve. So it creates that roundness that really makes the photograph dimensional. Just all throughout, the tonal range here is just phenomenal. Again, another, we talk about movement or not moving. And you're going to hear different judges say different things, different people. Rick mentioned earlier about the hummingbirds with the wings being stopped. Aircraft, more times than you're going to have a judge tell you that they'd like to see more movement, because if it's still and it's a crisp edge on the propeller, then it doesn't have that feeling of actually flying. Yeah, splitting hairs, right, I know. But this is really handled so well. The reflection off the canopy, look at that. It's a bright sky up there, but it doesn't take over. You can still see the pilot very clearly. This is really a great thing. The other thing too about composition is I love the placement. We've got a little less space in the background and more here, which gives the plane a feeling of somewhere to go. If you would have had that evenly cropped, it would have stopped it, made it feel like it wasn't going anywhere. It just really a composition is just very strong. It's very, very nicely done. I like the whole thing. Nice sky, not blown out, just very nice all throughout. So good stuff.
Yes, it is.
Then we have, oh, this is one of my, not mine, but one of my favorites, squirrel. And Rick will know why I'm laughing. Most of you guys probably know too that's I've always been referred to as when I'm teaching a workshop. So what an absolutely great story of this squirrel with a cigar in his mouth. And again, nice capture. I like the low tones in here. The squirrel stands out. You've got obviously some brightness on the the top of the birdhouse, squirrel house, whatever this might be, but you've handled it very well. Didn't let the highlights get blown out on the back of the squirrel. The background is deep and nice tones, so it lets the squirrel stand out. I probably would have gone in and maybe given it just a little bit more space, maybe a little bit more space on the right side, since he's not necessarily rule, but kind of how I look at it. If you divide your image in half and the face is on the right half and it's looking that way, give it a little bit more room to look. Maybe make it the subject smaller, move it to the left, expand your image just a little bit more. Not, I mean, you don't necessarily have to have the eyeball on the left side, but it tends to make it feel a little crowded. But gosh, what a darn nice story. And also too, we talk about titling. I mean, squirrel, that works, but we know it is a squirrel. So give it some cool story that really plays up the fact that this squirrel has gotten a hold of this cigar and so on like that. So Rick, you take it away.
Yeah, storytelling again. We see the squirrel with the cigar, but then we see this sign and there's no smoking, and it just really tells a story. I think we're dipping a little bit to the right. I personally feel that we could crop it. We've got the highlights on the rails here, which can be toned down, but there's so much more impact. And as I crop it, and then coming in and toning down this area, I think would help it as well. There you go. And notice how we're dipping, how the right side is just a little bit yeah.
It's kind of it's a little bit of there's a little distortion in here, so I can level up the top of the window frame,
Right.
look to the left. So it would
Right.
take a little bit fancier doing than that, but you can see how all of a sudden now the squirrel stands out even more. We still know it's a house that he's sitting on, bird feeder, animal feeder. So,
Right.
but what an absolutely great story this is. I mean,
It is.
just how cool. You could make some great cards with some nice funny little saying on it, and people are going to eat that stuff up. So good work. All right. Whoops, got to get rid of my tool there and go to here. No title on this one. But Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. Notice how we have the stem coming in from an angle. I like that because it leads into the image and there's a real nice bow to it. So, it's not a real strong diagonal line, but just a curvy diagonal line that leads up to the flower. Um, I'm not real sure if this is, something that's been extracted. I'm just getting a sense, real sharp edges on the petals. Uh, but I think the placement is handled well in terms of composition. Nice color contrast between the magentas and the greens, and then the color in the middle, the yellow color, yellow green, if you will, that pulls us into the image, but handled really, really nicely. I'm wondering too, Jeff, if I'm not real sure, if Evergreen, if you guys have your competitions, because we haven't talked a whole lot about presentation uh, at all. So just your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, what Rick's talking about there, for those of you who are not PPA members, we're always, as part of a entry, you have to put a mat of some sort around it and a key line for they call the presentation. And there's another competition PPA is doing that they're getting away from that, so it's not the gospel. But sometimes for years we've done that, and it just helps kind of, I'll use the term dress up by putting a mat and a lip around it, but it's also just to reiterate that it's supportive. So color coordinating is good, but not taking over. You don't want the judge to see the mat and the stroke first. So it's got to be it's got to be color coordinating, but it's also got to be subtle. So it's there, but it's not going to ask for attention. So like I wouldn't use a mat of the same green as the stem or the same magenta as the flowers. I would carry off this yellow green from the background into the mat and just make it an extension of the piece, basically.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know where I can add. I think Rick said it all pretty well. It is beautiful. I love the color harmony in here. This is so striking. Again, what I am seeing is there's a little bit of a haloing right here along the stem, and it's just, I don't know how, and I also see some haloing along here, along the pink of the color. So I'm not sure what's happened, what the technique is, but just look for those little things. If you do something to it, if you enhance a background, if you select the flower and soften the background, just stuff like that. Whatever is or can be done nowadays to a scene, just watch for those little things, because I'm not saying you did cut this out, but I am seeing those kind of things. So they are definitely there. And if it creates a question mark in one judge mind, it's going to create it for all the judges, and then score goes down. So again, whether it's one judge or a panel of judges, just something that you need to consider when you're doing this. But otherwise, it's an absolutely beautiful piece, and we will move along. So now we have, let me just pop this up a little bit for us to see it. No title on this one either. Again, just a really lovely capture. I love that you've got the reflection of the little guy in here. It just really helps tell the story. He's kind of looking like he's just trolling along, minding his own business, and nice calm waters. I like the position of the guy where you've got him, kind of putting him just off center and down a little bit lower. Nice position, so it gives us some room for him to go, some room to grow, room to move, all those terms that you want to throw at it. A lot of times we'll look at a white area as a judge and think, okay, what do we do with that? There's no detail there, so it pulls our eye. But this being a very mixed, it's not a high key, it's not a low key, because we have a medium to low key subject, but we have a very high key background. So I'm okay with that. We've got a nice grayish off-white feeling on these corners and this upper corner. I guess I might have liked to have seen just like a gradient in here, just to pull this down into the same tone, just to balance it so it looks all the same. Minor point. And then the other little thing in minor things, all these little specks along here, I know it's just stuff floating in the water. They are asking for attention. I would remove those. I would go in and clean all that up just because it's such a stark white, it is asking for attention. Rick?
Yep. Agree with everything you said.
Well, yeah.
With exception.
Here we go.
If the file allows, I would like to see a little more space bottom of the reflection, because we're getting really kind of close to to that border area around the image. Also, this is you hear a term used a lot of times, that the lighting is a little flat, and it's just not a whole lot of direction of light from any area that's coming in to accentuate the subject and separate it a whole lot from the background. And what does separate the duck from the background, of course, is the contrast of the color, from the light background to the dark body. So again, it's one of those things that nice shot, nice composition. Is the question would be, what is the strength of the lighting? We want something that's a little more directional, I think would help this out a bit. But and if it was something that was used commercially, we've got plenty of space up here, for copy, if you would, like a sportsman, a duck hunter type thing. So, in that regard, well done.
All right. The powers that be there in the theater, do we need to take a 5-minute break?
They all went home.
Great.
Ellen's saying keep going.
Okay. We can do that. We are halfway, so I'll get that in a moment here. This is,
There are a few duplicates there. Sorry about that.
no, that's okay. I just want to make sure. All right, so we will not talk about this then again. No worries. I'll get that in a sec here. Okay. And let's clear that out the way. What a beautiful, love those fall days deep in the forest, deep in the aspen grove. I do like the composition where you've got this nice area. Let me get my pen here. Come on, tools. There we are. So we have this nice, again, oh, for crying out loud. Here we go again with the lack of tools. All right, I guess I won't draw on it. There we go. Sorry about that. What I was trying to see, it's still not giving me the tools. Okay. So we have this nice diagonal of this evergreen, and it's about a third of the scene. So it's a nice balance between that and the trees. And then the lines of the aspens, a little bit of the curve emulates the angle of the evergreen. Nice depth throughout this nice front bunch brings us from the evergreen to this bunch, and then there's trees in the background that let us go deeper into the scene. That's done very nicely. I love the square format that just kind of keeps us into a nice feeling of the scene. Sometimes we do a photograph and there's not necessarily a specific focal point, and that's okay. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I'll say this works pretty well because we've got, like I said, we lead in on the evergreen and into the aspens, and then we it allows us to wander back through the scene. I will say it might seem a little bit low contrast and dark. I think it could be popped up a little bit with brightness and maybe a little contrast. Trees have plenty of contrast in them, but we get a little bit more life in the scene. But other than that, I think it's just really a nice, strong composition. It'd be a great print to hang on somebody's wall. So, Rick?
Yeah, for sure. That was the first thing that struck me was you know, the darkness of it and maybe snapping it up a little bit. But you know, in competition, and I would imagine that this would go for any kind of a guild or camera club, certainly for our PPA competition. You know, the logo on the bottom left is something that you want to make sure you don't show in competition, because it like in PPA, it would be disqualified immediately. Because and it's a good thing that we don't show the logos, because the evaluation of images is totally anonymous, in that if you know a maker as a judge, you have to disqualify yourself. So there's you know, just a big effort to make sure that everything is above board. And but we don't want to tip our hand by, you know, showing any of the evaluators or judges or what have you that whose image it is. And just doing that really helps it out a lot.
Yeah, here's what was submitted, and then here's just playing with the levels layer a little bit. Just gives it that little bit more punch that just makes it that much more inviting. And again, your preference as to how much you want to do, because it is your image, and I'm just suggesting what I think might be an added bonus for that one. So, okay. Then we have the egret. Okay, let me just enlarge it a little bit for us here. Ah, isn't it funny how just, you know, all the little simple tools you take for granted are biting me in the caboose here. What do you think, Rick?
Okay. We have a term that we call the key of the photograph. There's high key and low key and mid key. In other words, high key would be a very light white, if you will, subject against a white background. So we would be in key because it would be a high key image. The mid key, of course, would be something neutral against a neutral colored background. And then low key would be a dark subject against a dark background. And so what we have here is a mixed key of a high key subject against a low key background or environment. And so what's going to happen is whatever highlights we have will tend to really be blown out, and any contrast area is going to garner the most attention. You know, Jeff and I have learned over the years that a good way to see where the focal point of an image is to maybe turn it upside down, because we're so used to, our brain is conditioned to see things a certain way. But you know, because of this heavy contrast area, that's where our eyes go, and then secondarily to the bottom left corner. So it's kind of tough to have a mixed key. It's a, you know, to make sure that we have the balance there that's really pleasing. And whether or not the egret's leg camera right, is it been in mud or whatever, but we see how black it is here, and just total lack of detail.
So here's, I just was playing there a little bit as you were talking, as how it was presented. And it's a great capture of an egret, because they're just such a beautiful bird, soft feathers, but just, and I pushed it just a little bit, bring some highlights back in, and a little bit of, just that little bit of background gives us some depth, but it gives us some more. And it's still a little flat. I would say we need to pop up the contrast a little bit, but you can see just what Rick was talking about, how it just keeps the bird from floating in the darkness. And then overall, I'd lighten the whole scene. But also you can see how nicely that helps the rock out in front. And this is a tough one. We do have some blown out on the top of the bird that I don't know can be adjusted, and like that. But other than that, I mean, what a great capture! What, you know, to be there and have the patience to capture, and not just standing. I like the foot up, and the bird's feet are pretty discolored, Rick, just so you know, quite a bit. The legs and that can have discoloration. It could be mud and dirt too, but more times than not, it's not just a clean gray or a clean yellow all the way through. So sometimes, I mean, I've seen birds that you think are supposed to be, pink legs, and they're brown and gray and got a spot of pink on it, but that's just how they are. So, okay. This is Shasta. Let me give us a little bit of size here. All right. Good capture in terms of, we talk about time of day, and of course, a lot of times the landscape photography, we say, okay, morning, afternoon, those are better for light direction in the middle of the day. But I've found where a lot of times you get some nice sun on a mountain and you get those nice cloud formations, you get some really interesting looks, even in the middle of the day. I don't think this shadow here is, let me find my little tool here. I don't think this shadow is of any, okay, give me the tool. Give me the tool. Nope, not going to do it again. So I don't, that shadow is not objectionable. It's there. It's showing some depth. These little shadows from the peaks there, or the rock formations, are giving us some nice shadow falling off. So we got, sun lower in the sky, and they're not harsh shadows. So I'm just saying, watch so we don't lose the highlight, the snow field here, and the between the downfield there. Starting to lose just a little bit of detail. So that's where you could simply come in with even just adding a levels layer, and just bringing, I think the whole thing could be the whole thing could be just a little bit darker in tone, and would still have that. So even maybe going in like about there, and then you could even crop up the bottom just a hair. We don't need all of that, like maybe right there, and even just pulling in this like this just brings a little more emphasis to the mountain, to the ridges here on the side. We still see the trees, and we know there's a nice foreground, still got a nice gray sky. But it just, you can see it just gives us just that little bit more punch to the subject instead of not having. So again, don't be afraid to, just because the camera captures this 4:3 perspective, don't be afraid to crop it however you feel tells the story better. Rick?
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier about going around the image and seeing these points and tangent lines, but is this area here adding to the image? I don't think so. We've got a little bit of a highlights here that I think can be cleaned up. And
Yeah.
it just sounds like nitpicking, but doggone it, little things like that just can really make the difference between a nice image or a good image to a great image.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the stuff that I know we've both learned over the many years of doing this, is just all these little things that, yes, they're natural. That was part of the scene. There's nothing to say that they have to stay there. They're not adding to your scene. So if they're taking away from it, then I find that to not be beneficial for delivering my message. Remember, you're the artist creating this piece, and you need to, deliver the message that you want it to be. So by all means, feel free to crop and cut and take out, and and it's hard because we talk about, there's AI and all those fun things you can do, and any kind of PPA competitions, you cannot use any of those things. But if you're just shooting and gonna sell it in this gallery or something, by all means play with those things and to take your images to that next level. And even little things like, there's this one little bit of light trap right here, these little things. Boy, my pen's just not going to want to work for me. Okay, we'll skip it. But there's just some little light traps in the shadows here that are, I mean, really there's a couple over on the right. Again, it sounds like we're being nitpicky, and you don't really mean to be, but it's those little things that definitely take your image up to that next, that, I hate that term, that next level, but that's what's happening here. Get rid of the stuff here. Okay. We now have one called prayer wheels. I had to read that twice because I'm sorry I didn't quite see the wheels there right at the bottom of each of the cylinders there. Rick, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is really, really intriguing. This would be a really good candidate for one of the categories that we have with it used to be called photojournalistic, and now they're calling it reportage. And I think they're going back to photojournalist. It doesn't matter, but the storytelling is what matters here, something that you might see in National Geographic. Uh, you know, obviously the story is being told. I like the leading line that's coming in from the left, you know, to the subject. We're getting a little bit close, you know, to center composition, so I don't think it would hurt anything if we cropped off a little from the back, just to allow a longer leading line or lines into the subject. I'm kind of thinking that if we beefed up the contrast just a little bit, we're a little bit milky in the face of the subject, and I think that would be helpful. Maybe even cropping down just a little bit because we have quite a bit of white space up there that draws attention, but just something to kind of keep us focused in on the subject.
Yeah, let me just take a, that was kind of sloppy, but just a little bit of a dodging to her face.
Mm-hmm.
And it's minor, and it can be done in competition. It's not a problem. And or even, you know, just taking it as kind of how we're lightening up her outfit a little bit. It just makes her stand out
Right.
from the rest of the scene. Again, I'm doing this very sloppily, but it just really makes her stand out. And but what great interaction with her. She's got her, I don't know if that's her prayer beads or whatever she's carrying with her, and then of course all the prayer wheels and all the colors of the area there. I think this would make, you know, we always talk about this. I think this would make a pretty cool black and white, too, that we could really push some things and get the tones to stand out a little bit more and give it just a little bit more punch.
Yeah. I think I'd really come in and take out this little scratch mark or whatever it is right here. It's really pulling my attention.
At the top of the,
You don't see my circle here in the
oh, down
bottom?
there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do see that now. Yeah, I did notice that before. And little stuff like that that just, you know, pulls the eye away. And I can, you know, can I have my tool, please? Nope, it's not gonna let me do it. Anyways, but yeah, so just little things like that that just pull it in. And I think you got a really great story going on here, but you can see just a little bit I've done. It makes her her face, or she stands out just a little bit more. And even cropping down into the left, like Rick said, I think would just really give more impact overall to this lovely young lady. We have these guys here. Oh, let me get rid of those. Fun things there. What a great capture. I know I've been out photographing these myself, and they don't make it easy for you. They move quickly, and when you get, you know, two or three of them together, there's always one or two of them that their wings are in the wrong place. So this just
How How inconsiderate.
I know, they should check with us. They know we're there, right? You can hear the lenses and the motor drives firing off. Yeah, what a great capture and moment in time. I like the color. We got this nice warm feeling, low afternoon light kind of a feeling, and then the blue in the sky just gives us some nice contrast. Where the birds are nice and crisp and sharp, you can see the detail all the way through. I am seeing, and again, this is something that I'm just gonna say whether than saying is right or wrong, but in the if I get my tool to work again here. It just isn't gonna. I'm seeing a little bit of haloing along the bird's legs and the wings. Not so much on the head, I just see on the neck a little bit. And this can be, it doesn't matter why it's there, but sometimes if we take the background and we tone it down, you'll get that. Or if we cut out birds and drop them, or some an object and drop it on a background, sometimes we'll get that. It's not a problem, it's easy fix, but for competition, you definitely want to get rid of it because these judges are eagle eyes, or whatever, whatever the animal is. What do you want to add to that, Rick?
Oh man, this is really nice, but the points you made are well taken. This is such an unusual cropping and composition. It's really something I haven't seen, and I'm really appreciating it. But the points you made, I think, are well taken.
Would you do this, Rick? Would you move these birds, take the front guy and just, you can easily cut them out and move them forward so you got more of a diagonal between the three, move the middle bird forward just a little bit.
Sure.
That might be a little bit more of a interesting. This is good, but this might be even another possibility for you too.
Right.
Good work.
That's a good point. Jeffy, give me just a minute if you would, please.
Yes. Any questions from the peanut gallery, as we say, while Rick's taking a quick break? Come on, we're not doing that well. You don't have a question for us.
Suggestion for the title for the last
Oh,
one.
all right. So you could do, let's see, let me pull it back up here. So, play on words always works well. If you can get the judges to smile a little bit or think, we don't want them to think too hard, but we want them to kind of, and this is true in advertising, is to take a concept that everybody already knows. So if this were the Three Stooges or the Three Bears or, something like that, that it pulls up an immediate story, going home, coming home, looking for IHOP. I don't know. Little things like that can really help tell the story. Time to head home, the time to migrate, that kind of thing that, again, you don't have to go really elaborate. You don't have to list the type of bird, the time of day. All you could say sunset flight or early morning hunting spree. Little things like that are painting a picture. They're painting a story as opposed to being identifying. You don't need to say red bridge in the middle of the country with a street with a road leading up to it. We see that. We see these three birds, so you don't need to name it as three birds. But like I said, to take it from there and to go with a story that we already know from childhood is a really great idea for that purpose.
Jeff, we have a question here.
Yes,
How do
please.
you remove haloing?
So let's see. I'm in Photoshop. Let me just show you real quick. I'm going to enlarge this. And this, so just so you know, it's going to look a little bit pixelated because I am enlarging it too much. And it's really a simple thing. If you take your clone stamp tool, all right, and we're going to take the mode to darken. See, I've got the mode. Take that to darken, leave it 100%. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge it again quite a bit. So it's not going to look sharp, so don't panic, anybody, maker. And I'm going to take a small brush and I'm going to sample right next to this. So I'm going to use, and this is the clone stamp tool, so rubber stamp. So I'm going to just click and hold down the Option key and on the Mac and click, and it's memorizing that tone. Because I'm using the darker, it's going to only look for pixels that are 50% and lighter and change those. So I'm going to enlarge it quite drastically here. So again, I've got my darken, I've sampled it right there, and by just going along, and because I'm darkening those white areas, it's not going to do anything. See how, whoops, see how I'm out here in the middle up there? It's not going to do anything to that because it's already darker than 50% pixels. So I'm just going over these light areas, and it's just darkening them to match the surrounding area. See how easy we can take that out? You do have to be careful and resample. If I'm sampling way out, you don't know if you can see my cursor, but I'm way out here, then I sample something, it's not going to go dark enough. So you just have to kind of sample and resample and resample. And I'm just going to do this real fast. And I'm being kind of, and again, you're seeing pixelization there because I've enlarged this drastically. But when I go way back out, you can't really see too much, but you can see that there's still a little bit of a halo on the top and the bottom bird, but the middle one's legs do not have that. Does that make sense to you? And whoever the maker is, I'm happy to, give me a holler and we can work a little bit more closer on that. But I will promise you that that's something that judges will see all the time. And it's not necessarily anything you've done wrong. If you take a landscape and just want to make the sky darker, by nature, the nature of digital photography, you will get that halo look, that line along the edge of the mountain or the trees or whatever. And if you enter it into a competition, or worse yet, you hang it in a gallery and somebody who comes along doesn't know photography will say, why does that bird get white outline around it? That's embarrassing, because it is something that can be seen. And again, the trained eye of the juror will see it. So if it is going to be a competition piece, definitely look for those things. So again, make or call Rick or I will help you to work with this a little bit more. But it's a natural thing. It's an easy fix by the most part. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think we have some looks of amazement here.
Amazement, astonishment, or he's lying. All right.
Pleasure. No.
Was that a question?
Yeah, the question was, can you do that in Lightroom?
No. It has to be done with it needs to be done with the clone step tool in Photoshop on the darken mode. You can now the tools I don't think are the tools in Lightroom are coming along quite a bit, but they're not as refined as what you can do in Photoshop. Now, having said that, I don't think there, I'm pretty sure there's not a way in Lightroom to do that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it won't work, but that's the way I know it in Photoshop. And again, contact me and I can share with you more specifically on that. So we have an image called Red Sky at Night. Nice. Rick, your thoughts?
Yes,
Are you
very
back?
nice. I am. Very nice rendition, especially of the sky in this image. Very soft and moody. Nice play of warm colors against the cool colors. In terms of composition, it's a very, very pleasing scene. And then we ask the question, what is the focal point or the main subject? And as I look down at the barn here, I'm thinking, boy, that would make for a really good point of interest. My concern is that number one, it's pretty much in the center of the image. If that sky is so massive, I'll bet you we have that rendition, whether we go camera left or camera right. And the reason I'm saying that is if we did move more camera left or camera right, and I'm thinking more camera left, because if we go camera right, these bushes are liable to get in the way. But just to force, if we're camera left, would push the barn further to the right, giving it a little bit more interesting placement or PowerPoint. But the sky is so powerful here, and to have a secondary element, which would then be the barn, but just have it in a different focal point or PowerPoint, I mean to say. And then, again, we were talking about our um, little areas that we want to make sure that that don't attract attention, the little highlighted areas here and here, because our eyes always go to the area of highest contrast. But nicely done.
Rick made a comment earlier. I'm just going to do this real quick and to show you that this is something that we do quite often with our images, is to turn them upside down. And what happens is it kind of messes your brain up for a little bit. It goes, if anybody's ever used a view camera in life, this is what you see through the ground glass. What that does, I think it makes you a better photographer. It takes you away from the, wow, look at the beautiful sky, to, oh, what else is in this scene that's catching my eye? And then the question is, as Rick mentioned, is it going to benefit the scene or not? So then in camera time, you would crop it out. Or in this case, you look at, well, what's catching my eye? Well, the scene's great, but I also am seeing now, let me get my little pen tool here. It'll let me do it. I'm seeing, so I just cannot get, I can't even tell you what's going on, guys. It won't let me get back into, if I go down here, it's going to go away. No. All right, Rick, circle those for me.
Right.
I know you did before, but this says the highlight in the tree at the horizon. There's a little spot over on the right over here. And again, the barn, I would either remove it, move it. You don't want to crop it out because you're getting, but it is because it's kind of behind some trees and it is not really standing out. It's not really part of the story. It's not really telling the story. The sky definitely is, which is fine because this title should be more about the time of day, the fiery sky, whatever it is, and the farm, the building is supportive. But as Rick said, having said that, if you title this image something with the barn and the barn is so tiny and it doesn't tell the story, it's going to be misleading. So if the story was more about, fiery afternoon or something like that, then the barn is going to be accepted more. Again, we're talking competition here. We're talking with Judges C. Little things like that can be make it or break it, I guess, is what I'm going for. It's just a little stuff like that. So.
Yep.
Okay, so we're doing pretty well here with. That's not what I wanted. We've just got 3 more to go here, so. Turkey butts. No, that's the kind of title I'm talking about. Seriously, it's
Yeah.
funny. It gets us giggling, it gets us looking, and yeah, what are we looking at? Turkey butts. Really, really nice black and white, good tones throughout. Maybe I would work a little bit more in oh, I swear, I got other, yeah, I need to get my Etch-a-Sketch out to do this. Do not know why I cannot pull up my tool here. Unbelievable. And what's funny is I have a web page, a browser that keeps popping up on the other screen here. It's just taken over. All I was going to say was this dark area here, Rick, you can circle that for us, on both the right sides. It's minor, but it's just that in dark areas are what we call black holes, and a judge or a viewer will look at it, their brain's trying to figure out what details or what should it be. Yeah, we can tell it's part of the bird, but it takes you away from enjoying the image. So if there was just the slightest bit of detail in those black areas, underneath the birds are actually kind of fine, but it's a minor thing. I don't mind the ground. I might have darkened the sky, trees in the background just a little bit more, just to pull it out. But I mean, I don't know. This is a really clever, creative capture and the titling, and it really tells a story. And what else do you want, Rick?
Yeah, really. The only other thing I would add is that we're dipping just a little bit visually to the right as far as the horizon line is concerned. Uh, I think that can be pretty easily taken care of, but those are little things that are picked up, and it's once you see them, it's like you can't unsee them.
Right, that's true. It's exactly a really good point. when something like that comes up in a competition. And frankly, it's true in any viewing, if it's hanging in a gallery, and it might be the reason somebody doesn't buy a photograph. They won't know it. They won't be able to tell why all of a sudden they lost interest in it. But if there's an area that pulls their eye into it and doesn't help tell the story or give them the same smile as they first had when they saw it from across the room, there goes a sale. So then we have guess I'm not sure what the title is in this one. To fall. Anyways, yeah, what a really pretty capture of. I like this kind of thing, especially when you single out one or two different trees from the rest of the scene. That just to me tells a really cool story. The position of them is fine. I think it's nice placement in the image. The shadows are strong. Good detail throughout. There's lots of nice detail, and it's very dark underneath the trees, but I'm seeing detail. I can see the difference between those two trunks on the right tree. And they stand out drastically from the blue-green of the evergreens and of course the blue sky. So I think that is very cool. Again, I might suggest a little different crop just to kind of, we've got plenty of ground here in the foreground that, even just bringing it up maybe like here, it's kind of lowering the trees into the third. And then even with the sky, we know it's a blue sky, I'd pull it down just get rid of a little bit of that blue sky, so it doesn't pull our eye. And that nice little cloud helps. I like the trees are just a little bit off to the right. Nice color harmony, cool tones throughout. But I think this crop just is a little bit stronger because again, we know there's ground there. There's still plenty of foreground, but it's kind of eliminating some of it. So let's just get to the trees faster. Rick?
Yeah, and in addition to that, I do like the crop because it allows that shadow to lead us into the image. Hopefully, there's more on the file to camera left, so that we can push the trees a little bit more to camera right, because this guy being the main subject, just by virtue of its size, is pretty much bullseye in this particular composition. But my thought is that if we have a little more room uh, to camera left, just a little more space to lead into the image, but nicely done.
So this kind of comes to some of the conversation Rick was when we first started. Now, I don't mind this composition at all. This tree is right in the center, but the tree on the right or maybe balance is the right word, not evenly balanced, but I think helps because it pulls us in from the right and doesn't necessarily make this tree in the middle seem so obviously centered. Having said that, if you look at fine art photographers, not the PPA world, go look at some of the books and some of the things. Quite often, there's one tree centered right in the middle of the scene. So that composition is very much welcomed or accepted in other parts of photography. So again, we're not right, we're not wrong. We're just showing you what we've learned. And it's some of the things you will hear if you go into competitions. But yeah, I think if you were to, you could even extend this left side of the frame by using just, extending the file to move them off to the right. I think you'll have a little bit more powerful feeling, a little bit more movement of static images. That's kind of, I think, where Rick was going with that. So,
Right.
am I right? Did I do it right?
You've done good.
Oh, good. We have one more image. And it is, oh, we don't have one more image. This was duplicated from before. Hey, gang, I guess we're done. Is there any of the images I can pull up again? Any more questions on anything? Come on, we're not that good.
We're not
We
seeing
were that
any more
bad.
questions from the peanut gallery.
You're not? Okay.
You missed your image? What time, when did you submit it? 4 o'clock today, yeah. Sorry.
Oh, so, okay, somebody missed out.
Well,
Obviously there is at some point, or you would be able
I,
to.
I
Well, hang on,
thought I.
hang on, Jeff. Hey, Jeff.
Hanging.
Hey, this is Ellen.
Yeah.
So we missed an image. Do you have it? Can you email it real quick? You don't have it with you? Oh, shoot. Okay, because
Yeah, well, actually, I moved everything that I got over at 6 o'clock, so it
So,
should have been
what-
in there.
yeah, so what was your image? A hawk?
Yeah, I don't
Go
recall
check
seeing
and
it.
see if you can. So
Tell me
hang
what-
on, Jeff. We're trying to track down a missing image.
Tell me what the image was in case it's in there and maybe I missed it. I downloaded the whole folder, but
It's a hawk.
a hawk? Well,
Yeah.
okay. Let me just go back to, I have the link here that Tom sent for the folder. Let me just look and see if,
What did you call the file?
yeah, I'm not seeing a hawk in the collection there.
It's not gonna go to right.
Yeah, it didn't make the initial upload.
You see it there?
No, but that's awful tiny printing.
Yeah.
So.
No,
so
it's
you-
not in
you
here.
didn't Email it. You
And you got the progress bar and everything?
Can you go into the website and see if it's there?
I copied everything off the
Well,
website.
just check and see if if it somehow didn't get copied. $30, that's great. Hey, Jeff,
Yes, ma'am.
if we can't find Daniel's image, can we offer him that he could get, he could email it to you and get a quick Zoom or something to hear the, well, we're trying to get, to see if it somehow got hung up on the website.
Right.
By the way, everybody, I thought this was amazing. I hope you did too. And I personally hire Jeff a couple of times a year to do this one-on-one with me. Just, just Jeff and I as a one-on-one Zoom. And he offers that for a fee. I can't remember what it is. But
Yeah, it depends. If you go to the Soul Road Trips, I have different rates for, you can buy different packages. And right now, if you buy 3 hours, you get a 4th hour for free. So we can talk about all kinds of things.
So, I mean, so we go on Zoom and he talks about my images and I pull things up and ask him, what do you think, essentially? And it's huge. It's huge in improving, upping my level of photography, and I would highly recommend it. I don't know, Rick, does Rick do that too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, see, there you go. So now two judges, because they are actual PTA judges, two judges that can give you good, solid, constructive critiquing and things that can help bring your level of photography up.
Well, thank you for the plug, Alan. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Oh, you
absolutely.
bet.
So, yeah, you guys,
I
if you
don't
go,
have my FTP tool on here, so I can't download it.
Okay,
It does appear that it's in the log,
you found it
yeah.
and you can't get to it?
I can't download it.
Can you bring it up? Can you click on it?
No, it's in a folder on the web host.
Okay,
That's where all the contest images go.
okay, but
You need it to FTP it down.
it's not something I can get
I
to.
don't have the tool on this. No, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
I got all that
sorry.
was up there, so.
It's there.
I
It's
apologize.
there and it's not there.
It's there and I can't get to it.
Well, go ahead and send it to me when you get it. We'll make something work for you.
Okay,
And
So
if-
just real
I
quick,
can send it to him if I find it up there.
Yeah, but we need Daniel's email address. So that we can, Daniel, can you send us your email address? Okay.
sorry, Rick, I'm volunteering you, is that right?
No, that's what we do.
I know.
So any more questions, any thoughts, or you guys, was this good? I mean, you like this? So do you want us to do it again? I mean, maybe do it once a year or, okay.
So a couple of things real quick, and Ellen, if you can share this stuff with everybody, I put in the chat box for the group that's not there, you may want to copy this. I have 3 links in there. One of them goes to the Image Critique Show, so folks can go and look at all of the previous programs we've done like this with some of our guests that have come in. They can go then also have a link to YouTube with the interview with Unmish, who was just a couple weeks ago. You can go listen to that interview. And then also I put up my one-on-one mentoring link in the chats if you don't mind sharing that with folks. We are happy to help you.
And I'm seeing some really nice comments in the chat, and
Hey, is
we
that?
appreciate that very much.
Well, I've got it if he doesn't, if he didn't. Email
Yeah,
us
thanks
at
guys for tuning in.
Webmaster at Evergreen Camera Club. Jeff, did you put the 12 elements in here?
And the 12 elements are in there as well. Yes.
Yeah, I see him. Hang on
Okay.
just a second. I need to make this
Yeah,
not
we're trying
full screen.
to grab the
And
link.
Now I don't know whose Zoom account.
Here's the 12 elements. I will put the 12 elements on the website.
There you go. And it's a PDF. I can easily send it to you email if that doesn't work, but
Either one, it's .org. But either one works.
so have we decided we're gonna have that other image emailed to us, or are you still looking for it?
No, we're gonna email it to you.
All right.
Tomorrow?
I'll try to do it tonight, but no later than tomorrow.
Oh, so you have it? Well, then let's pull it up.
Well, are you logged into
Do
Zoom?
you have it on that computer that you're looking at on Zoom? I mean, you can share it.
If
We
you
just won't be able to
email
color
to
on it.
Webmaster. Go look in your email and see if it's in Webmaster.
Did you email it to Webmaster, the photo? Okay.
Okay, hang on, Jeff.
I'm trying to save the 12 elements to my laptop, and I don't know what it's doing. Okay, it should stay open. That's fine.
If you lose it, I've got.
Okay.
Okay, hang on, we're working on it.
Yeah, if you have it there and you can just share the screen, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Or we get to look at all the things you've got pulled up.
Yeah, be careful what you've been looking at.
Not even logged in. Jesus.
You're not logged in.
How many folks did you have in the room there with you tonight?
Dozen?
Oh, good.
Maybe 14, and then we had 11 on the Zoom call, but that included you and Rick.
Right.
So we
That's
had.
cool. That's cool. I can see
Oh,
who's
there you
online. I just
go.
can see the room.
There you go, Jeff.
Look at that. Can you see that, Rick?
I can.
Hang on, I got stuff in the way. It came up on the other screen.
Sorry about that.
All right. Well, I'm glad we're seeing this because this is quite nice. Lovely capture. It's always fun to capture a bird. I mean, it's great to capture birds in any state that they're in, but when they're sitting there, it's fine. But when you get them in flight or taking off, landing, those are just really, I think, the bonus captures. So good eye there. We've got nice sharpness throughout the bird's body. This leading wing's got a little bit of a blur to it, but I don't mind. It's not a bad thing. It's just there. But yeah, I like the position from just taking off from the log. I don't even mind the tree in the background because it just gives us depth throughout the scene. All the bokeh or the bokeh or however you want to call it, with all the trees being out of focus and soft behind it, lets the bird really stand out. Nice color tone. Yeah, good placement, good cropping. Rick, thoughts?
Yeah, I do like the composition, and I see the tree to the left, and really adds to the balance of the image. Again, I don't mean to harp on little details, but they really add up. As I look at the image, the horizon line, especially, I'm guessing that's snow in the background. It's tipping to the left, and
Yeah.
if we kind of level that off, I think it'd have a little more impact.
One thing that just caught my eye, minor thing, but it does play into the whole overall composition, is the tree, the direction, the pattern of the tree, it kind of emulates the bird's wings in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Very subtle, but it just kind of gives it a nice balance. And what that does, that complements that. If the tree branches were all pointing up, or that might fight with a little bit, but this just has nice contrast.
Right.
Good, so
Nice.
yeah, very nice. The white snow would be hard to get rid of, but you can see how it pulls your eye to it. So, just in an image like this, I'm not sure what you would do, but especially when you're out shooting, you're concentrating on capturing the bird
Right.
or whatever, and it's hard not to get snow if there's snow all around. So, but that's what happens. So,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, and then
good.
we have that light horizontal area at the very bottom of the image that I think we just cropped up an inch just to get it out of the
Yeah.
out of-
Yeah, just up into that rust color, I think would be
Right. Yeah.
still suffice. Nice capture. I'm glad you found it.
What do you compare to maintaining an aspect ratio, or do you not really care? And what would make you care about trying to maintain a particular aspect ratio when you're after you do your problem?
You're gonna have to repeat that for us because he was just
So the question was, how much do you care about maintaining an aspect ratio and
Yeah, after you crop.
Yeah. Me, none whatsoever. Aspect ratios are for camera salesmen. And I say that facetiously, but I'm serious. I would rather have my image work for a composition that tells the story, that makes it more appealing, than make it just because it needs to be 4:3 or 16:9 or whatever the numbers could be. And that's just me. It's still good composition will rule over specific sizing. I know there's people that do this, so it's not wrong. But just for me, I'm not that concerned. Now, going one step further, if I'm going to print or even just putting it on the web or something, I'll round off those numbers. I don't want to have an image that's 21.738 inches by 13.981. I'm not going to do that to a lab, so I'll round it off. But having said that, the composition, placement of the image, the story, the movement, all those things outweighs the actual format for me.
And I would point out that we're about to have or we've just started our annual calendar competition, and for that the image has to be 4:3
Yeah,
horizontal.
unless you're shooting for a specific calendar or if you're hired by somebody to do a specific piece in a magazine or a billboard or something, then there's those restrictions. So yes, that would matter in that point. But generally, no, for me. Rick, what's your thoughts on the?
Yeah, you know that it's interesting because back in the film days, we had these wonderful cameras that were um, uh, supposedly, well, they were considered ideal formats, 6x7, 645, and then we had square formats, but that was just it was just the canvas. It was how you placed the images in the canvas and ultimately cropped them for ultimate visual effect.
Yeah, I think something that at least I've learned over the years is as you especially when you start out, you learn the rules, you learn the, I don't want to say the right way, but the way of creating the imagery and how the cameras work. And when you get those rules, you get the compositional rules. I'd love to do a program on composition for you guys sometime if you're interested, and just show you how you can take them and break them. And also, really, it's about the ultimate image. There's still composition no matter what format you choose. It's just that you understand it and see it and make it work, because composition will make or break your scene regardless of the format. So that's my spiel, and I'm sticking to it. Did that answer your question? Did that help?
Yeah, I think it did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think we're good, Jeff and Rick. This has been awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for
We're all
having us.
thanking you.
Yeah.
Feel free to reach out if you have questions or you want some more help. You know, Rick and I also are available to do body of work critiques. If you have, 20, 25 images that you want to critique on, hire us. We'll get together on a Zoom. We'll record it and, and present you with that. Obviously, there's a fee for that, but that's something that we can certainly do, really specific just for you and your work. So
right.
and it's been really helpful for a lot of people. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks
Thank you all
again.
very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for watching the Image Critique Show with Jeff Johnson and Rick Avalos. Learn more by checking them out at theimagecritiqueshow.com.